Thank you all for attending this webinar on extracting data from invoices. The purpose of this session is to dive into some of the challenges of data extraction from invoices and then show you a brief demo of how you might be able to do that using AI. Feel free to post questions in the chat. Hannah will make sure I answer them. And we've also got time at the end of the session to answer questions. But the purpose of these sessions are to keep them sort of bite-sized and snappy, so it shouldn't take more than 20 to 30 minutes of your time. So without further ado, I will jump into the presentation. The invoices are sort of the backbone of every single transaction, and despite being a relatively simple document, are quite challenging for processing. And so this presentation will jump into some of the challenges, present some of the maybe traditional approaches to extracting data from invoices, and then sort of showcase how with recent advancements in AI, we're able to sort of lead to much superior performance. Just a quick background on TextMine and myself. So I co-founded the company with Amber 4 years ago to turn business critical documents into a searchable knowledge base. We're a team of 14 based in London and Spain. And really what we do is we help automate manual document data extraction workflows, both on the extraction piece, but also on the sort of auditing or question answering piece. And this is for a broad range of documents, which obviously includes invoices, but also covers things like contracts. So in terms of some of the historical challenges with invoices, well, the first challenge is that every single company has its own sort of format for invoices. And this also changes between countries. And this means that the layout is constantly changing. The concepts are presented in many ways. So here I've just got 3 example invoices, and every single invoice refers to the same thing differently. And especially if you're trying to sort of automate any form of data extraction, it's really difficult when concepts you're looking to extract, like dates, amounts, currencies, descriptions, are presented in different ways. And another challenge, which is specific to invoices, is that invoices tend to have tables. The tables are great for visualizing structured information and allowing someone reading an invoice with their eyes to quickly locate important information. However, for machines, tables are really difficult to process because when machines read tables, they don't actually read the tables, they just read the text within the table. And what that means is a lot of the structure that's provided by the table is lost. And so that's sort of one of the key challenges with invoices. So in terms of how businesses today extract data from invoices, the number one approach that we see amongst the clients is manual document data extraction, which is reliable in terms of being able to capture information. However, because it is quite tedious and time consuming, naturally there will be human errors. And because it is time consuming to extract one piece of information, it means that if ever you are processing invoice data, you will be sort of limiting what it is you're capturing. And that sort of limits what you can do with your invoices. Optical character recognition is another approach for extracting information from documents, but it relies heavily on documents following a specific pattern and layout. So this can only work for invoice use cases when you're processing the same invoice or the same invoice format over and over again. However, it's typically not done well in a generalized setting for invoices or purchase orders or other documents because, as we saw on the previous slide, they do constantly change. And finally, traditional machine learning use cases have failed in the past for invoice document data extraction because whilst they can sort of work well on a specific type of invoice, they're not very generalizable. So in conclusion, the only sort of generalizable approach for extracting data from invoices today has typically been human-led and manual. So the reason why recent advancements in AI and specifically generative AI make it possible now to extract data from invoices in an automatic way is largely thanks to large language models, which are trained in a much more generalizable way to recognize and understand concepts in documents, whereas optical character recognition or machine learning based approaches are looking to identify the same thing. Large language models can understand what a concept is or learn what a concept is and connect various expressions of that concept so that ultimately when it sees start date, commencement date, effective date, it knows that it's the same thing. And that's something which is really quite powerful. And then the other great thing about large language models is they are able to learn how to respond to tasks and queries outside of maybe what they were originally trained for, which is something which traditional machine learning methods had not been great at. So effectively, the part that is sort of automated with AI with invoice data extraction is what would typically be done manually. But the second benefit of automating this with AI is the AI never gets tired. And if it does make mistakes, it can learn from them in a systematic way. So now we're going to sort of jump to the demo. And so I'm just going to change the screen. So what you're looking at here is Vault, which is our large language model that we've trained to extract data from documents. It has been trained on a broad range of documents, including invoices. And in terms of bringing data into the platform, you can either drag and drop, connect to an integration that we support, or set up an email inbox so that whenever you receive invoices via that inbox, they automatically get pushed into the system. So in terms of the process, for this purpose of the demo, I will just drag and drop some invoices. And when they're submitted to the system, Vault is automatically going to read the text in the document and categorize it as an invoice or whatever it might be. So you don't need to specify in advance. And this is quite useful if, for example, you're receiving purchase orders or other types of documents at the same time. So here we can see it's finished processing an invoice. And then when you click on that document, you will see the actual invoice that was uploaded and the metadata that's been extracted automatically on the right. So here we've got the currency, the client name, the end date, payment frequency, start date, total cost, the unique identifier, the location, etc. And this is all really useful for finance teams because this information can then be sort of reported, whether it's for financial reporting purposes or if ever you wanted to connect this information to other document types like purchase orders or contracts. Here we can see that it's finished processing a few more. So for example, here we've got another type of invoice. And I said the key thing to highlight is because this is a large language model, it's able to cope with a broad range of different types of invoices. So here we've got, for example, a legal invoice in Singapore dollars, and this sort of hasn't prevented the model from providing the right information. So we've got the total cost. We can also see that in this case, it's detected that it's a one-off invoice. So this is all really useful information and a good example that actually, we are able to generalize data extraction capabilities. Here we've got another one, for example. So yeah, there's really a lot of value and extract information from these invoices. Now, once you've done this process, the next step is to export it into maybe your accounting or finance system. And so once you've sort of validated this data in Vault, the next thing you would do is you would publish it to Legislate, which sort of acts as a repository of facts. So here we still have the invoices that we uploaded in Vault, except they've been validated and therefore the data is correct. Now, in terms of being able to analyze this data within the platform, you can, on the one hand, filter through the data. So you could say, okay, show me all the invoices in pounds, and then we've got them here. Or you could say, show me the invoices in US dollars. And you can do additional filtering if ever you want to do analysis based on supplier, for example. But the key thing is that you can export this data to CSV so that you can easily import it into your finance system. So for example, here I have some invoices. So you have the invoice name, the start date of the invoice, the start date of the service, client information, supply information. All the information that was extracted from Vault is now present in this CSV, which means that when you do import the CSV into your finance system, you can automatically generate that metadata. So this, what you've just seen, works perfectly well for purchase orders, SOWs, supply agreements, etc. But obviously, the purpose of this webinar was to dig into invoice data extraction, which we've just done. So yeah, feel free to ask questions and I'd be happy to answer them. So can TextMine do table extraction? So yes, TextMine can do table extraction. So we can, on the one hand, extract the actual values inside the tables for the purpose of answering questions. So like, what is the description of the service? That's something where we've seen we were able to extract that information from the tables. But we can also extract the actual table structure if required, if ever you wanted to export that table as a CSV separately. And for the second question, there's no limit on the amount of invoices. In terms of handling the various invoice layouts and structures, that's something which our large language model has learned just through training. And ultimately on our end, we've done a lot of effort in terms of sourcing invoices to be able to cope with and teach the model the different variations. And in terms of security measures, so we are ISO 27001 accredited and have a number of controls in place which are sort of available at trust.textmine.com. How reliable is the data extraction process? So data extraction process is very reliable, and on our training data sets achieves accuracy levels close to 95%. We do have higher accuracy for sort of the most common sort of data fields, but if ever there were sort of less frequent or rarer fields, then the performance might not be as high. But the great thing about our technology is it does improve in time and with examples, which means that we would be able to achieve 95 to 100% accuracy relatively quickly. So we're using our own large language models that we're self-hosting. So we're not using any API or third parties. However, we do host with AWS, but we can host on private clouds if required. Yep, so as you saw in the demo, we've got integrations with the major file storage systems, but we do also have a public API, which means that we can integrate with any system. How much does it cost? It depends on the number of users. The best way to provide an answer would be to set up a proper call after the webinar, and we can do that via email, or you can reach out directly on LinkedIn. So with Greg, yes, you can run the system on your AWS account, but obviously in that instance, you'll be paying for your own AWS hosting costs in addition to the license to use the system. So that's something that you need to evaluate and see whether it's the best approach. Great, but yeah, Greg, happy to have a call after this webinar to better understand your requirements and use case. GDPR compliance, yeah, we're GDPR compliant and ISO 27001 accredited. And yeah, feel free to reach out at charles@textmind.com, or you can book a demo via our website. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day.